Now, the efficiency with which a nation is able to put its economic resources into use is directly proportional to the rate of that nation's potential economic growth. This is because of the significant impact it has on the economy. The question of how government can best increase its revenue should take precedence over all other concerns. To ensure the health of the economy as a whole, it is necessary that different parts of the economy reduce sufficient amounts to produce sufficient amount of revenue. Prior to 1970, agriculture and natural resources such as coal, iron ore, and tin were important to Nigeria's economy. The discovery of crude oil in the 1970s brought about significant shifts in the organizational framework of the Nigerian economy. Now that the IMF and World Bank is saying categorically that Nigeria must prioritize the growth of non-oil segment of the economy to address some of the revenue challenges faced by the various governments at this time. Dr. Bamidele Ayemibo is famously called the export doctor. He is a renowned author, international business coach, a keynote speaker, international business development expert, and an outstanding AFCFTA ambassador, a doyen of international trade and finance education in Nigeria. He's the lead consultant, 3T Impex Consulting. Thank you so much. It's good to have you in the studio.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Very well. It's good to really have you here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I think when I saw this speech, I spoke with you saying that the IMF is saying we must prioritize non-oil sector growth. This is not news to Nigeria. I think we've been having this kind of discussions before now. But what do you think is different about this, particularly at this time we find ourselves?
It's coming from people that the government listens to. Because they respect their view and opinion, and what they say about your country also is important because other people around the world are listening to what World Bank and IMF is saying. So I'm hoping that the government will definitely do something about it now, knowing fully well that, they gave the priority on the export sector, help the vulnerable, and also make the business environment ready. So priority on the export sector, coming from IMF, I think, is very necessary. I have advocated that I think the president also need to, there's this thing around body language. So I believe, even though probably the government have it in mind, but the president talking about it regularly, I believe will make some of the ministers and all the lieutenants to probably begin to take knowledge export very serious. I think it should be our priority right now because of the issue we're having with FX.
Are we harnessing it as we should? That is the challenge, because we talk about all of this. I've been able to see just recently, I think Export Hub or so, they talked about 10 containers. We're celebrating that. I feel we can do better than that. Okay,
no, what I was trying to do was they are trying to create, just pretty much supporting what NPC is doing. They are one of the export house, export trade house that's NPC license for China market or the Chinese market. So what they did at that event basically is to publicize the services they are rendering to businesses that want to go into export market. Of course, what they're doing for me is how you call it now is better late than never, and I bet it's better than none. The fact that they have started make a lot of sense, and they're trying to increase the volume. So the 10 container in question is just to show that look, we started. We're not just talking theory; we are doing it. That's what they're trying to get practical. That's why they have to demonstrate that. In fact, I was there because they had to launch one of the shipments. Although they've done some before, but they launched one of the shipments again at that event. But basically to say that look, we are in China, and what they are doing make a lot of sense, and I think the government should replicate it. I know government have trade houses in Egypt, in Kenya, and other parts of the world, I think about 4 or 5 locations. But what they are doing in China make a lot of sense. They are trying to help businesses to solve any problem with getting buyer, getting payment and issue in China, which means investors should be able to bring in money to be able to export, because now you now have organizations that can support you in that initiative. So I think it makes a lot of sense.
The issue of standards is for me, I always like to talk about it, that we need our goods to be able to compete globally and internationally.
Yes.
I think we're doing better than we used to do.
Yes. In fact, with what I'm seeing now, number one, the fact awareness is increasing. Number two, NAFDAC is stepping up their responsibility and trying to put policies in place, even though the industry is trying to help them adjust in a way that it doesn't kill business. But the fact that they are taking up that responsibility make a lot of sense. And the fact that NEPC also is trying to do a lot in terms of helping with certification. But I think more importantly is, if you are trying to go into export, you should know your product. Because the reason why quality issue happen is because you don't know your product. You should know how to package your product to keep it in peak condition to get to destination, meaning you need to know the product well enough to ensure that you source the right product, check the quality, and preserve it in transit to destination, knowing the product, which is now capacity building issue. So because it's one thing for the product to the quality to be certified, it's possible for product to certify and the product had issue in transit to destination if the container preparation has issue, particularly to ensure that moisture does not enter, so that the product can be in that peak performance until you get to the destination.
But I think we've had reduction with regards to rejects now. You know,
okay, so I will wait for the data that often sent from abroad to NAFDAC every year. NAFDAC now they receive that data from time to time. So by next year, maybe we'll be able to know what this year looked like in terms of the level of rejection. But I hope to see a reduction actually, because the awareness is increased. You are talking about it every now and then. NEPC is doing something about it. NAFDAC is stepping up. In fact, now you cannot ship out of Nigeria if you don't have NAFDAC, particularly if it's a food item. Even commodities, NAFDAC is coming to that point and they said the act enabled them to be able to deal with commodities. So we hope to ensure that, with that, all those steps put in place, we hope to see an improvement in the data of rejection next year.
It sounds good. That argument also in some quarters that we are yet to even feed ourselves, and we're talking about exports. A two-way question too. Also adding value. Some will say that we have people in this value chain, so we need to understand the value chain. That cocoa, some people would harvest the cocoa, some people would dry it, some people are ready to process it. That it's a market. Everyone has their own segment of that market. But we keep talking about adding value. How well are we adding value at this time?
Let me answer the first one about, are we feeding ourselves enough? There are so many other products to export. Why would we think it's not only agri? Can I export finished goods? We can export solid minerals. We can export manufactured goods. There's so many things, services. There's so many things we can export. So if we want to say, okay, we don't want to export some product because we want to feed ourselves,
are we limiting ourselves?
That will be limiting us, definitely. But there's still, NEPC confirmed last year we exported over 200 different products. So the food item in question might not be up to 5 or 10. So we still have a lot of option to export. But secondly, is the issue you raised around, what's the second issue?
The first is around we are mixing this up now. The first is around the goods, the standards, the shelf competing.
Okay, yes, I remember. Value addition. Now, let me say something about value addition. The product can be raw materials, secondary and tertiary.
Okay.
Global trade statistics is showing that there are more demand for intermediate product. That's secondary product and tertiary product.
Okay.
So that means cocoa beans, cocoa butter, chocolate. There's more demand for cocoa butter than cocoa beans than chocolate. Okay. Shea nut, shea butter, cosmetics. There's more demand for shea butter than shea nut than cosmetics. The reason is because a number of countries, because of sustainability issues, they are concerned about processing primary products in their country. So they would rather you send secondary product so that they will process to finished product. So the intermediate product demand in the world, global trade is about 24-25 trillion. About 50% of that is intermediate product. So the primary and tertiary products is sharing about 20 to 30% that is left. So if you are thinking of value addition, we might not necessarily take it back to the end, which is finished product. Probably we should just stop at intermediate products that have huge demand, because the goal is for us to generate FX, right? So let's look at the area where we'll be able to get the volume of FX by not necessarily waiting till we do the finished product. So value addition, definitely. Africa is doing a lot of shipment, but we're earning so little because of value addition. Immediately we begin to add value, of course we make more money from the export we are doing from Africa.
The AFCFTA that we've been talking about, that was in the news for so long. I'm not seeing us take very good advantage of this. I don't know, in my own assessment as a journalist. And recently I read from Mr. Olusegun Awolowo, and he's very, when it comes to this segment, he's a major player.
He's the chairman.
He's the chairman of that committee on AFCFTA. He said Forex crisis is stalling Nigeria's participation in the $3.4 trillion AFCFTA exporters are that in that market. Now, what do you think about the FX angle of this too?
FX for an exporter is two sides of the same coin. It has positive, it has negative. Now, if I'm a manufacturer and major input is imported, I will have issue with FX because I now have to source for FX to be able to fund it. But immediately I begin to export, also as a manufacturer, I should now begin to get FX. Even if I can't meet all my demand for FX, I get FX that is growing over time. So FX is a challenge, but it's also a blessing in disguise for export. I mean, the CBN governor talked about it. I know people have also talked about it. The fact that some countries try to manipulate their currency, they've been accused of manipulating currency, I think China and Japan by US. The fact that they want to ensure that they are more competitive in the export market. So FX have its challenge, no doubt, particularly for manufacturers. But if manufacturers begin to take export more seriously also, they will be able to get at least some of the forex required without necessarily relying 100% on the government or other sources for FX, so that they will be able to now become more competitive in the shipment, the production or manufacturing of their product in Nigeria. But for those that their product is not being exported and they are dealing locally, there will be a challenge. Now, on AFCFTA, manufactured goods is what we must focus on. So manufacturers definitely are affected by dollar. And the dollar issue because in AFCFTA, many of them have not started exporting under AFCFTA. If you are going to take advantage of AFCFTA, dollar will affect them definitely, because many of them don't have forex enough, which is also, again, the call for trying to begin to consider FX. In fact, at that event, one of the chairman, I think it's Aspanda group of traders, saying that a number of people are packing their load and leaving Lagos for the village because they can't trade again. They have cash, they have naira, but they can't sell what they used to sell because nobody is buying, the price is too high. But the fact is that as an importer, either manufacturing or trading, you can also begin to export different commodity or product from Nigeria and generate FX, and then use the FX to fund your import transaction.
So this brings me to the issue of currency again. I think the AFCFTA thing was to strengthen ties, or is meant to strengthen ties between African countries, and of course, it's a big market. And the fear was Nigeria shouldn't become a dumping ground. I heard that argument. I spoke to the DG of Manufacturers Association of Nigeria on this issue and other players in the industry. So, considering our challenge, our peculiarities as a country, what do you now make of the positives for us? Because many say Nigeria might not get the best of it. Remember AGOA, if you can even tell us, did we tap into that market?
Okay, so AGOA, ETLS, Equatorial Trade Investment Scheme, AFCFTA, they are all different agreements, although AGOA is a unilateral law of US to support Sub-Saharan Africa, but ETLS and AFCFTA are free trade agreement that is supposed to. Now, I agree with you. The issue we had with AGOA is what affected ETLS. And I'm afraid it might affect AFCFTA. If we don't do something, we should have learned our lesson from AGOA and ETLS. I describe AGOA like this. It's like giving a well-garnished chicken lap to a child that does not have teeth. So how does he appreciate the value? So that's exactly what happened under AGOA. The market is huge. $1 trillion market. US is the largest importer in the world. And they are ready to buy our product, but we don't have what it takes to be able to take advantage of that market. One of the issues is export readiness on the part of a number of businesses coming in and not able to continue. Another thing is government support. Government support in this case will be, look at some of the things I think we can do in Nigeria, which some countries have done. SME is the engine room of the economy, right? So what can we do for SME to grow export? Can we have a situation where SME, as an SME, I don't have to worry about setting up factory, getting NAFDAC, getting certification, doing my packaging? Why can't let's say I want to export chocolate.
Yeah.
I can take my cocoa to a factory. This factory, I will just tell them what I want, specification, what I want, and I'll bring the raw material, and they will manufacture this thing and package it. In 2 weeks, based on the kind of cocoa I supply, I'm going to come and pick up finished goods to sell locally and export. That's what some countries are doing. What this does is help the business. You have taken up the production out. It's going to focus on marketing and sale. That will help them to be able to grow, because now energy can be channeled at what we really need. But because this factory is very big, it has all the certification required. So quality is never a problem, because it's big enough and it can handle thousands of demand every month, because it's big enough to be able to handle demand for different parts. It can be in hub, it can be in the geopolitical of the country. And this will help. So we can decide to do this for different agro commodities that we know if we process to this level, there is a demand in the market. These are the kind of support I think we need the government to begin to do to be able to. In addition to this, one of the major payment methods in international trade is open account. In open account, I will ship the goods. Payment will be made after shipment. This poses a risk on exporters. So what some countries are doing for their businesses is to give them export credit insurance. This is what Nexim can do. Nexim has to have a product, but it's not something they do regularly. I don't know why. Maybe they are not well funded. I don't know what the issue is, but it's something they can do. They have the capacity to do it, but I guess it's funding. and government can support. So that means that I can do more shipment because I know I can ensure my export proceed. If I ensure my export proceed, the implication of that is that even if I have issue with delay payment or issue with payment, I can go and claim, and the insurance can always take care of that. During the global financial crisis in 2009, there was issue with issuing letter of credit from Africa. World Bank, IFC came up with an idea working with the European government because they realized that they won't be the businesses were not going to receive LC from Africa because of the global financial crisis. So they came up with the GTFE program, Global Trade Finance Program. You issue an LC from Africa, IFC guarantee it. By IFC guaranteeing it, businesses in Europe are ready to take the LC from Africa because that will help them to keep trading. Because if they keep trading, they're going to create jobs. We can do the same for our people to be able to. The idea is just for government to throw its weight behind the people as much as possible to be able to encourage businesses to go into this sector. We have what it takes. It was growing in the last administration. They did this, what was the name? This Naira for dollar, in which if I export, I will get a particular. This should have been what export expansion grants you do, but government is not budgeting, funding export expansion budget. And CBN came up with this idea. So it would have been good for CBN also to do something in that regard, do something to encourage businesses to want to export and to want to repatriate the money into Nigeria. And then we can have this FS flowing in.
And we can be able to address all of these challenges that we face. Let's wrap up on this note. Moving the goods out of this country is also another kettle of fish. Now, you've talked about the government agencies doing their job and all of that. What about the law enforcement agencies? They have a role, the likes of the customs and all of that. Are they in sync with the fact that, let's be very factual here. And I'll add to that. Also, yes, I'm putting Dr. Ayimbo on the spot here. Also, the likes of Nexim that we mentioned, and even the NEPC. I used to know how active the NEPC used to be. I think more needs to be done.
Yes, I think more needs to be done for NEPC. I mean, it's almost a year that the CEO has been appointed, so I believe it's settled down. By next year, we'll begin to see I'll be able to talk more about NEPC because by next year, because it will have settled down. At least it will have mastered all the issues because it's coming from private sector. For Nexim needs support from CBN, from federal government. If Nexim get the funding, I'm sure they will put those products out. But let me come to custom. I'm not already brief for custom. The port is a lot better than what it used to be. I do shipment from time to time. I'm currently doing a shipment, and the port is a lot more efficient. So I give it to custom, Nigeria Shippers Council, and the what's the name? I think MPA for what is being done in Apapa to be able to ensure that we don't have delay again. Because some people still talk about this. There is an issue with our port. Okay, my experience in Apapa port or in Tinkan port, the issue, let me say, it has been reduced by 70-80%. Not that we don't have issue at all, but at least significantly. So I don't think we should worry more about the port now. Maybe we should talk about building more ports in other parts of the country to be able to ensure that other parts can easily not have to come to Lagos. They don't have to come to Lagos to export. Yes, that's what I think we need to work on. But in addition, that's why I'm also, and I know Lagos have a lot of money, so we have Lekki and there's one already being built, so Lagos can afford it. But other states also, maybe they should consider that. But more importantly is, we need advocacy to encourage people to export and safety net to ensure that they are protected when there are issues. Advocacy from top down, from the presidency to the minister to NEPC, increase advocacy on export. And what government will do to support. If China give incentive to their exporter, US give incentive, different countries give incentive. We need to incentivize businesses so that they can say, okay, because government is looking at this, let me do something about it. Because some people are already doing well in Nigeria, but because government is looking at that area and they can see what government do support businesses, some people will come in because of that. I think that's what we need to do to be able to increase, because we have what it takes in terms of product, manufacturing, we have what it takes. Commodity, we have what it takes. Solid mineral, we have what it takes. But we need more investment coming in to be able to grow the sector.
Infrastructure is key. When we talk about local production, I also look at infrastructure aspect of it. Also, again, finally, I saw that sesame seeds, ginger, mica, and some other things were those that were exported, part of what was exported when we talked about the export hub. Though I'm not staying with that really. What to you is the outlook? You know, it's good to have an outlook despite the challenges because government seems to be sincere about this. But like you said, it needs to do more. And everyone needs to be on the same page. The hands need to be on deck, like people would always say. So what is your outlook? If things are done very well, what do you think would happen? If it's business as usual and we continue this way, what do you think will happen as we wrap up 2024?
it doesn't look nice. It doesn't look nice because I'm not seeing, there's a way you see movement and you know that, okay, look, and I've been monitoring the data of MBS since the beginning of the year.
Yes.
I'm not seeing the kind of movement that will let us know that, oh, this will be a better year so far. But into the new year, maybe because of what we are seeing and what IMF is saying, maybe in the plan of the government agents for the new year is something they will be considering. I mean, taking it seriously. But the way it is right now, I see business as usual. I see a slight increase. It's happening already. The reason is because some people are becoming more conscious of the need to export. Some people are hoping this to get better. Hoping. Hope is not a strategy. We need to get a strategy on ground to be able to do something about this problem. So some businesses are beginning to take it seriously. I've been to different programs and I've seen people who are importers, who have not thought of export, but now are beginning to see because it has become a survivor issue for their business. So because of that, I hope to see some marginal increase, not a major increase the way we should expect, considering the need we have right now. I think that major increase will be a major lift that the government will have to do by advocacy, support, and a number of initiatives that will help encourage businesses to consider this as an option they need to start doing right now. Not just to make money for themselves, which they do, but more importantly also to salvage this economy and increase FX inflow into Nigeria.
All right.